Today I want to do something slightly different. Instead of dissecting a creative process here with you, I want to tell you a story about a creative process that happened to me. And I thought it was done almost 10 years ago, but it was not. It came sprouted back to life when I was doing the research for my latest episode about Mark Rosewater, the one I posted just before this one. And yeah, the beginning will not be about writing, we'll actually be exploring the depths of my adolescence, but we'll get to the writing bit, I swear. Almost a decade ago, me and my best friend at the time, we were really into this card game, Magic the Gathering, that I mentioned on the other video. We would read about the cards and the strategies and read the stories of the many worlds involved in this game. We were a little bit more enthusiastic than our friends, and yeah. So to try to quench our infinite thirst for magic, we organized a tournament. And also it had a secret agenda, because we had friends from different social groups who would play this game and didn't know each other, so this was also a great excuse to introduce a lot of people. The first tournament was a success. Everybody had a blast, but it was also predictable. The most experienced players with the most expensive cards won. And many of the matches in the tournament didn't have any challenge. It was just a strong player bulldozing over a weak player. So this friend of mine and I, we decided to address this as a design flaw, as a problem that we could maybe fix next time. We spent months preparing something, and we invited more or less the same group of players, and we told them, you know what, this is going to be different, this is going to be unpredictable, so grab all of your expectations and put them in a bag, because yeah, this is brand new. So the players got there, and at the door they were invited to stay quiet. They were told that the first part of the experience was a mute experience, and then they were led to this long table, and each seat had a different name, so the players had to find their own names and sit down. Cool. So when everybody got there, we distributed a couple of pieces of paper with symbols on them to help them navigate the game without talking. Game lingo like target and damage and draw and things like that. And then the cherry on top of the sundae was that we changed people's decks. Not with their opponents, no. We had carefully positioned everybody on the table so that they would fight somebody more or less on their level, but we gave the best players the worst decks, and the worst players the best decks. And the mid-level players, we gave them other mid-level decks that were more or less in the same category, but of course they didn't know the cards and they couldn't ask any questions. It was wild. I put some very loud classical music like Carlos Felipe and Manuel Bar to play, and everybody was playing and trying to figure out, like, I've never seen those cards, what do they do? It was wild. Nobody had ever played Magic, this game, in that way. It was so outworldly. By the time of our second weird activity, we already knew we had succeeded. Everybody was very impressed and telling us, wow, that was crazy, I loved it, can we do it again, when's the next one? The following day, this friend of mine and I, we were already thinking, what's the next step? How can we create the evolution of this thing we just experimented with and worked so well? What could be the doubling up on that energy? So it took us a couple of weeks actually to find a concept we liked, but when we did, we really liked it. And the idea was, weeks before the event, the players would have to pledge alliance to a clan, a group, a faction. And those factions, they would represent different philosophies around magic. What is the point of magic for this group? What does the balance in magic means for this other group? How should you use magic? What should be allowed? Those groups would disagree. Cool. So you would read and try to find in yourself which group did you align with internally, and then you would pledge your alliance. So by the day the event actually happened, each of those groups would have a different master and a different training program with different activities that would, yes, involve the card game, but also we could extrapolate a little bit and work around the philosophy of that. And by the end of this training activity, all the clans would clash against each other in a more traditional sort of tournament with just a couple of twists. But by this point, we imagined that they would be really embodying those ideals, and we would stimulate them to walk in a certain way and use certain words to add this extra element of roleplay in it. So we wrote a bunch about those clans. Each of the clans had a manifesto, and we also had a series of short stories for each of the clans, showing different ways that different wizards would embody the ideals of those clans, but still show their own personality while doing so. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But the tournament never happened. Actually, this friend of mine, as I told you, we were more into the game than other people. So the first time we charged nothing. The second time we had to charge a little fee for people to participate because we had to buy some stuff to be part of the experience. And this third time we would have to charge even more. It was an amount of money that we considered acceptable, that we would gladly pay, but our players, not so much. They were not so into it. The project was shelved. It happens. But this friend and I, we were still excited. We were in love with those clans we created, and the example characters were interesting, and we had this creative output. We've been putting energy, and suddenly it vanished. So we also didn't know what to do with our creative energy. So one day we sat together and we decided to, hey, let's turn this into a book. This game has other books that tell the stories of the locations and the characters. Why not do that? Of course, we were not thinking about publishing anything or nothing commercial. We just wanted to make something because we liked the game. And this started a writing process. We sent emails back and forth for almost a year, sometimes writing and sharing what the latest things we've written on the story, and sometimes just discussing about the politics and society and the landscapes and the names of this new world we were creating. We decided to use nothing that the game provided. We created everything brand new except for the basic universal rules of the magic system. So yeah, it was a blast. This, of course, is fanfiction. We didn't see ourselves as writing fanfiction at the time, perhaps because it started with the strange process I just described, perhaps because we didn't use any of the characters and the names of the game, most probably because we didn't have any contact with the fanfiction community, which would have been really great. Now, in retrospect, I was writing fanfiction. It just took me a decade to realize. Now, was the writing any good? No, it was not. It was just not good. But it was fun. It was really fun. I remember this scene. There was a wizard based on Captain America dueling a wizard based on Andy Warhol. And Captain America says, "I am going to strike you down, wrongdoer. I will defeat you." And then Warhol says, "No, you're not. I am going to confuse the hell out of you." And Warhol wins. It was just fun. The book was never finished. One of us was moving away from the country, our time priorities changed, and we didn't get to the end of it. We didn't even get to the middle of it, to be quite frank. But that's okay. It happens with some projects. I have no regrets. So, a couple of weeks ago, when I was preparing the latest episode, I was searching for Magic the Gathering in my inbox. I was looking for some information I had sent someone, and I found this old, ancient email chain, and I started to open it and read it. It was super interesting. Allow me to read a small snippet of fanfiction that I've written 10 years ago. The original was in Portuguese, already translated to English. "Attention, everyone, because I'm not gonna repeat myself," bellowed Captain Sirlik, loud enough so all the 3 airships could hear her. "This kid's name is Kix. He's a red mage." If he had his eyes open, Kix would have seen the sheer wave of disbelief this provoked in the crew. "He's gonna help a mission today, but I don't want you to trust him. He's a stranger, and he might have lied about everything but his red mana. Do you understand? I want you to leave him alone at the tip of our vanguard. I want to see him in action. If he tries to run or attack us back, I want his head. Whoever brings me that will get his head's weight in silver, so try to get a piece of the neck too. Even with his eyes closed, Gix could feel the whole gang glaring at him. Above all, he could feel the cold stare of the killer man, Leofic. He was the most suspicious of the group and would gladly chop his head just as a precaution, let alone with the silver bonus involved. It didn't matter. He was used to those things. When everyone was dismissed, the captain turned to Gix. So lad, ready for your first crime? See? It's not good, but it's fun. It's not a chef's table fine dining, but it's a microwave popcorn, I guess. There's something I wrote here in the discussion part, not in the writing part of the emails, that read something like, I'm going to try to translate here, read something like that. Listen, I don't know how to structure a complex epic storyline, and I want to get started as quickly as possible. I just want to get to writing. So I'm just going to retell Hamlet with magic. If the Lion King is just Hamlet with animals and everybody applauded, and heck, I can do the same. It's so naive. But hey, past me, whatever works. You actually got to the writing bit very quickly, so great. Just entertainment value of this experience would make me consider it worthwhile, but there was something more, something deeper. As I read those pages, I started noticing a couple of things. Symbols, personality traits, not the big stuff, not the plot lines, but small details here and there that are really present in my current book. And that was accidental. I had forgotten about this for a long time, but somehow those little details, those little treasures from the past were kept alive somewhere inside of me for almost 10 years. So I guess no creative process is useless. It's true that I never finished that work. I forgot about it. But still, the best bits survived inside of me and manifested whenever they found an opportunity. And you know what? I'm sure that if they hadn't found this opportunity, if I was not writing this book, they would show up at some other time in some completely different creative process I would do someday. These things are a part of me now. They belong to me. I know that not finishing a project feels like crap, especially when it's not your fault that the project stopped. But if those things carry on living inside of you, it's not too bad. Even if it's not what you expected, what you wanted, it's part of the longer journey. You're building this internal library inside of you. So, I don't know, maybe your unfinished book will influence all of your finished books in the future. One could even argue that it necessarily will. That's me for today. Thanks for listening to this tale of strange card game nerdy championships and accidental fanfiction and symbols that live inside of you forever. I hope that was entertaining. I hope there was something there. Yes, and I hope I'll see you next time. Ciao.